introduce the roundtable here. The session will be chaired by Professor Manoranjan Mohanty. We have as our panelists Savita Singh, Dhananjay Rai, Rityusha Tiwari, Jigyasa Sogarwal, Madhulika Banerjee, Irfan Afzal, Avijal Varke, Suranjita, Jayant Jigyasu, Mallikarjun, and Professor Anuradha Veeravalli. So we'll quickly begin with the session. I hand over the session now to Professor Mohanty. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I have to apologize. I was not able to attend all the three yesterday and today, 2 exciting days, and hearing a few presentations on YouTube was actually whetting my appetite. I mean, Sanjana's paper, for example, or 2 or 3 papers I did here, but that's no substitute. So my apologies. I will basically hear everyone, and if I have something to reflect on, I will do that at the end. But I have the general feeling, very deep feeling, that we are on the right track on understanding new questions and understanding them in depth and finding new methodologies to grapple with them and also seeing new possibilities of intervention. So I really feel excited about the way we are proceeding. With this, let me ask Savita Singh to begin, to be followed by Dhananjay.
Let's play it by ear. Let's play it by ear.
Okay. So, first Savita. So, 7-8 minutes each. Yeah. Sweet. Play by the ear means whoever feels like coming after. Not one.
No, who you want should speak.
Okay.
So good evening. Thank you, sir, for allowing me to speak first. As you all can see, this year's colloquium has expanded also temporarily, that is to say, that it's not only 2 days colloquium, it is 2.5 days. And it means a lot. Organizing that half day, the inaugural, required very special kind of courage and intellectual temerity, thinking, and so on and so forth. Manindra, of course, has been a constant inspiration and main worker of this colloquium. We have many who are architects now of constantly working. Actually, so proud and grateful to everyone who has worked to make this extraordinary colloquium. I don't think we have anything like this in this country at the moment. Not that to say that I'm traveling all over the country, but at least in Delhi and areas around, I don't see anything like this in terms of how we are planning, but also in terms of what we are discussing, the topics that we are choosing to reflect. For a very long time, we stuck to a certain kind of methodology that we adopted because it's a creative theory, it's a new theoretical, ontological base on which we are working. It's a very participatory and critical and reflective colloquium. Nobody feels alienated over here, everyone is a participant, but there are some who are formally speaking more because they have prepared to come and speak over here. Nobody has come unprepared here, whoever has given papers and all that. They are all fully prepared, written out their papers, abstracts were submitted in time, they were vetted, chosen, language corrected, edited, everything. It's like been a lot of work. The entire team has been working. And we had numerous meetings to make everything come into this form, looking very neat and clean and smooth, but a lot of hard work behind it. First thing is this. Second thing is that the constant support that we have from our collaborators like India International Center, the Raza Foundation, the International Herbert Marcuse Society, and now Shanti Sahyog. And all of them have impeccable records. We have not chosen them instrumentally. We've chosen them because they fully understand what is at stake. They fully understand our understanding of the world, our enthusiasm for change, transformation, our theorization, which takes into account issues of which takes up issues of marginalized people here. It's not easy to tap into the subjectivity of the oppressed and speak on their behalf. So, also both ontologically and epistemologically, we have chosen correctly. We have no conflict whatsoever with our groups. And the financial help that we get from Raza Foundation, the other kinds of infrastructural help that we get from IIC, and now the intellectual international support that we have from International Herbert Marcuse Society. Our colloquium was announced on their website, in their newsletter. And it will be a surprise, sir, that the inaugural session in which they joined, the senior most critical theorists like Douglas Kellner, and Charles Wright, and Immaculada, and Professor Andrew T. Lamas, who actually collaborates with me on this. Both of us are sort of writing to each other, informing as to what's going on. That day, Charles Wright took note of each speaker's speech. He himself wrote it out and mailed it to Professor Lamas, because they don't live in the same city. I think Wright lives in Chicago, Lamas lives in Philadelphia, and I think Feinberg lives in California. So they're all in different parts. But he mailed it and copied it to me, in which he has said to Lamas that please, in the next newsletter, include this information that so many people spoke on the day of the inaugural, and these were the things that were spoken. So, I mean, they have done more than what we expect from our collaborators. And to be on the international website of a left organization of that level is a wonderful tribute to our own efforts over here. The other thing that I want to say is that since it is a collective effort from the side of our collaborators and from our students, our young researchers, our seniors, professors, Ashok Vajpayee and all that, there is a transparency. What we feel, what we say, we say. There is nothing that is hidden, and we have a WhatsApp group on which we say whatever we want to say. So there is a rare kind of openness, transparency. Even though I was mesmerized by one speaker, what was his name, on the who came from on the technology session mein. He said transparency is now capital. But I'm here using transparency in an older classical sense, meaning transparency of information, of intention, of a democratization, openness, and this and that. So we have that kind of internal practice. We also, I was talking about the methodology for a very, very long time, because it's the 11th year. We used our intellectual courage to choose our topics. And we remained focused on the contemporary in terms of time. We always theorize, because theorization requires non-exclusion of contemporary reality. It's one of the grounds on which we test our theory. So we have been talking about democracy, we've talked about authoritarianism, we talked about atomism, we've talked about relationality. You can think of all the topics that are today either under stress because they are used by the power that is governing the globe today, that is global capital, and that is used by us. So there is a contest all the time. Contest is going on, a contestation in terms of truth, in terms of rationality, in terms of desires, in terms of liberation. None of those concepts are forgotten, even though usurped by very powerful forces. So this contestation, this dialectical method that we are using to produce meaningful social theory, meaningful, and what we are doing as praxis is what we are now calling creative theory, is synonymous with doing Indian political theory. I can safely say this without any egoism or anything, because we are actually theorizing our practices. This is what political theory is. And we are theorizing our own practices, our own social realities. We are reflecting our own context, situation, and we are looking for new meanings that are emerging, contesting meanings that are being imposed, and so on and so forth. So I would say that it is with this intellectual rigor and strength that we are engaging with each other and the world in this colloquium. And this is why we continue to go on. A lot of people are asking us, is it the 11th year? How have we managed? We've literally managed without any money. I must tell you, money that comes to us is just barely covers the cost of our colloquium. And we don't touch money. Manindra is one person who has this philosophy that, we don't put money in anywhere in our name. Whoever wants to help us should pay our bills. So our bills are paid. I signed the bill over here yesterday also, today also, even for the tea, and the bill has been given to, because Sanjeev Chobe comes and he takes the bill from me, and when it is paid, how it is paid, it is none of our business. So that is how it is done, all right? Now, the bigger plans now may require some funding. It is very important. Can I take 2-3 more minutes? Now we have entered into a much needed phase of publication. So as in the beginning I announced that we have a collaboration with IISc to publish our occasional papers. And we can publish around 5 to 6 papers in a year if we have sufficient papers. So we need commitment on the part of people who attend our colloquium, who write for us, to submit their papers. We'll vet it. Don't worry, just as we vet your abstracts and your articles, we will do it. And it will be submitted for blind review. And after that review, it will be sent to IISc for publication. We have constituted an advisory body in which Professor Lamas and Charles Wrights is also part of that advisory body. Dhananjay, Rityusha, myself, Manindra, all. I have not put Professor Mohanty over there because he is our mentor, and that's not the job he's supposed to be doing. He has to feel happy about what we are doing. He has to give us directions. If we go astray, he has to correct us, and we will listen to him. We are also going to constitute, and now this colloquium is organized by a registered body, which is registered in the form of a society called Association for Creative Society. Creative Theory, which has its structures, well-defined structures. So we have our permanent members, we have our executives, our associate members. We are opening it up. Membership is, of course, it requires certain kind of fee. There's a fee structure. It's not very heavy. It's free for students, of course, because you must realize that we do it for our future generation. We do it for our students. Very few people actually do such things at this level, at this high level, for our students. It is very important. It's a kind of a community work also, intellectual community work. It's like it's the practice that left organizations follow all over the world, even if it is difficult. Like International Harvard Mortgage Society also does it. They have, if we have money, we will do that also. They have fund for the PhD scholarship. Those kinds of things they have. So we are going to also start very soon. We are going to start our own journal. Manindra is very much interested in that, and Manindra will be able to take the responsibility of editing. He can have editorial board, and I have taken the responsibility of bringing out the occasional papers. Apart from that, we have taken together responsibility of publishing books of our students, of other creative theory people under creative theory series. So we have published so far 4 books, isn't it? 4, no? 4, no? 2 books from
4 are in the
process. So हम अभी तक इतना कर चुके हैं और आगे भी करेंगे.
7, 8 are in the process.
And we are also publishing our books under the same series. और जो भी पैसा उसका आएगा वो पैसा हम अपने फंड में जमा कर देंगे. So दूसरे लोगों की भी किताबों को हम पब्लिश कर सकें. In case publisher asks for money, we'll be able to sort of work that way. So this is how at the moment.
The arrangement in that is that the Palgrave publishes the international thing, and they give lump sum money. Out of which we give to the sponsor 50% comes to the
So everywhere collaborations, everywhere subsidization. We are acting against the logic of this capitalist global economy in every possible way. Our praxis remains socialist. Our praxis remains feminist. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that was very important to know the organizational initiatives which lie behind this exercise. But we need 2 kinds of reflections. One is the organizational, the other is the academic reflection on the session and those of you who have attended earlier sessions, that is earlier colloquia, you should also reflect on that. So we want organizational reflection as well as academic reflections. Yes, next. Play by the ear, Dhananjay. Okay.
There are few points to be highlighted, and they are pretty known to all of us. One is that this was the important colloquium where we had interdisciplinary engagement. We had scholars ranging from philosophy, sociology, economics, literature, political science, and other disciplines. It may appear that this is dominated by political science, but it is not. Slowly, there is a democratization of political science as well. So we had interdisciplinary engagement in this colloquium, and this was done through offering, or many people had applied through abstract process, and some people were invited to speak. Some panels were chosen by respective coordinators, and they were also subject to peer-reviewed. And the second important point of this colloquium was diversity of issue within the single theme, and we had important diversity. And third is plurality of participants. Fourth is we also debated and we saw challenges in opening of new epistemological interventions which were not available. And what happened that when we developed subset of our scholarship and we discussed those things within 10 and 15 people, but here even 10 and 15 centric scholarship were discussed in the 100 before 100 people in this colloquium. And we had a robust debate on technology, fifth, and the participation of students was very, very encouraging, reflecting all institutions and universities based in Delhi. And it was a complimentary colloquium in place of speaker-centric or author-centric. In other words, more time for discussion is required. Is seminar format appropriate, or do we need to think about the seminar format, or do we need to some tweaking where time for discussion should be more than the presentation? I mean, and if those papers are already made available to the audience and readers, so we can have a less time, 7 to 8 minutes for speakers, and the more time for the discussion. What is happening that the maximum time is given to the author, but in the discussion is reduced to 5 to 7 minutes. And I will conclude, sir, in 30 seconds. The challenge is we remain by and large Delhi-based forum. Need some ways to include others proactively. And 13th, I think we had discussed in our one of the meetings that possibly not. I mean, this is a kind of organizational thing that we think we may initiate something called creative dialogue. That would be a forum for monthly dialogue. This will be in addition to all other activities. It won't be clubbing and overlapping with other activities. So these are the points which I wanted to highlight. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. That's an important idea. Ritu sir.
Thank you, Chair. I think after what Professor Savita and Dhananjay have done in terms of locating our organizational structure with some kind of clarity as to what we do, how we do, and then Dhananjay telling us what we could be doing, I'm going to just focus on what we have done so far in the last 2.5 days and what is now available to us. So and taking a cue from the chair where he said that new questions that we have managed to raise, new methodologies and new possibilities of intervention, I'm just going to respond to that. So I think we have been able to deliberate collectively on ontology or rather ontologies of technology. If I take from the first day, the inaugural session, we had been talking about how there is a certain uncertainty of technology, probability, entanglement, contextual, non-local, creative, recreative, relational. I mean, what is the ontic, possibility that we see of technology unfolding in front of us? As well as the kind of impact that this on-tech presentation that we have tried to unravel has on individual, worker, or rather multiple cultural identity bearing entity that is being created as a political subject. How there is a suspension of certainty and uncertainty of choices as a kind of continuum in front of this particular political subjectivity that gets created. So taking a cue from that, the epistemic contributions of this year of CTC focusing on technology discourse would include, and then I'm trying to just traverse through all the sessions together. Digitality and the creation of a techno-social in front of us in terms of techno-consciousness, techno-citizenship, techno-obscenities coming from the first session, techno-labor, techno-nationalism, techno-religious, the existing web of identity and normativities that we have been discussing so far in the last 10 years of our CTC colloquium are actually getting entangled further with this uncertainty of choice that is presented with the intervention of technology. And I think the response to technology and the impact of technology are in some way encapsulated in the way we have tried to arrange our sessions, in the way we have tried to give a name and theme to this deliberation this year. So our collective normative gaze of CTC, if you will, has been unpacking the creation, recreation and remodeling of hierarchies and contestations. So we do agree collectively that there is a creation of hierarchies. We do agree that there is a contestation. And so as the question was raised earlier, where is the crisis? I think the crisis is lying exactly here in the hierarchies that get created with this uncertainty of choice. in the kind of contestation that is possible from grassroots, as a grassroots response, or that is not possible as a grassroots response. And I think as a part of our collective quest, and I would like to refer to the first session here, so far as hierarchies of technology are concerned, the collective quest probably is to move from the choiceless awareness that was referred to in the first session to constructive engagement, where we are able to respond to this imposition, where we remain as a choiceless yet aware entity in the face of whatever is unfolding. The events, the identifications, or simply kind of ambivalence, the word that was being used again and again. So if something is happening in Palestine, do we respond or do we react only as a choiceless aware entity? Or do we also break that particular, suspension of choiceless awareness and move on from there? Because here the intervention of technology has its own political economy behind it. There is a kind of political economy which is inbuilt, and a lot of sessions have been able to develop a kind of nuanced understanding on the interventions that occur in our quest to move beyond suspension of choiceless awareness, the panoptic gaze of state, and then how there is a rebuttal or the surveillance or the imposed obedience or the question of political organization in the last session, the capital exploitation of labor, so on and so forth. So how there is a constant imposition of choiceless awareness as well as rebuttal of it. That's something that we've been able to kind of delve into, but I think the question still remains, and this is the last line that I'm going to speak. How do we bring in that particular moral imperative that was discussed at large in the first session, on the first day in the first session, as well as the subsequent sessions, the moral imperative of bringing, for the time being, since there was a lot of reflection on Indian intellectual traditions, bringing sanskar, what was referred as engagement, into this whole, and breaking this whole, the idea of choiceless awareness by bringing sanskar and by bringing in, the element of Vedana. I think the element of Vedana, what we are trying to encapsulate here is samvedana. Empathy. So instead of just existing as a choiceless, aware entity, we start responding. We start responding as a samvedansheel individual, if you will. So how do we do that? What are the new methods of responding in that particular manner? I think that remains our collective quest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Samvedana. Madhurika, please.
Thank you. Okay, ma'am. Okay, so thank you so much, but Professor Mohanty and everyone. Actually, I wasn't expecting to speak at the roundtable, so I'm afraid I'm not as organized in my thoughts. Nobody was. Okay, but these two were so astonishingly organized. I feel that I will sort of mumble along, so that's why I thought I should place my disclaimers in the beginning. So over the last 3 days, very exciting. I'm very sorry I wasn't here for today's sessions, but what I heard over the last 1.5 days, very exciting, and it sort of let me go back to the opening remarks that Manindra made on the first day. Technology in society is something that I have, it's been very, very close to my heart for all my research life, and that's where I began. So even when we were organizing and the kind of focus it should have and so on, we had fairly long discussion and disagreement also on what should be the focus. And after all of that, I think the 3 days have turned out to be very interesting and brought all kinds of issues to the table, perspectives, methodologies, analyses, which I think are valuable for the state of social science that they show today and the huge possibilities that were conveyed through the different presentations. So, contrary to where we began, I began, let's say 35 plus years ago, I now see that there is actually a vibrant space for discussing technology and society. And I'm very excited that the Creative Theory Forum has actually brought so many diverse thinkers together to talk about these issues. I'm very excited that Manindra has been emphasizing again and again that this is a dialogue begun and that we need to carry it through to the year, over the next year. And I really look forward to that, because I think that we have actually brought so many different scholars together. And this could be the beginning of a lot of collaboration, a lot of sharing. And I know that there will be many scholars who would love to stay in touch with each other. They met each other here, and they would like. And all of us who are listening, engaging, would be able to take these conversations forward. And I think that if we were to place these conversations in institutions, right back to the institutions where we've all come from. Institutions have other research scholars who may or may not have attended here, but that becomes a possibility to carry ideas that have been generated here to the institutions, and that's how seeds of new ideas are sown, right? So I look forward to the year ahead in terms of these continuing conversations, and commit to at least, and I really like, Dhananjay, the idea that you're thinking of creative dialogues. That's what we need. And so I'd be happy to pitch in and think about how to organize them, and the themes that we can. So, and having a year ahead of us means that there are lots of themes hopefully we should be able to cover. So that's one thing that I feel very excited. So even, always at the end of a colloquium, you feel, so it's over, and all the excitement we've been waiting for a long time, that's done. But we now can close with a sense of anticipation, which is great. The second thing that, I wanted to talk about very quickly, about the format. One thing that's also quickly to just pitch in with what Dhananjay said, referred to. Indeed, we've had a discussion, and I hope that Suranjita will raise it as well in her remarks. Just want to say that I already concur with what she's about to say, what Dhananjay hinted at. So I think that's something that we can think about. I also think that this is a very good opportunity for us to create a larger scholarship on technology and society. We have begun something, I think we may not even realize the huge possibility, just technology and society. And that, Vasundhara yesterday made a very bold statement. She said that you cannot do social science without talking about its mediation through technology. And that's the kind of thing we need to take on board. And these are people who would be very excited to participate in that line of thought and inquiry, taking it forward. I find what Savita just said very stunning, that creative theory is Indian political theory. Given that very many of us have been grappling with this project of creating what, or thinking about, is there a possibility of an Indian political theory? Should we work towards it? Does our work indicate an Indian political theory? Yesterday, Professor Mohanty spoke about global political theory and the notion of the self. Many of us went to hear him, and he has, of course, been urging us to explore directions in this. And what I found very interesting is that here's a political theorist who I respect so much, and she's saying that, political theory needs to be connected to the ground from where theory is being created. unfortunately, the way in which political theory is taught and disseminated, that the fact that the political theory we teach has no connect to the ground on which we stand, seems to have been missed in much of our curricula. So if this is a group that is going to now take that bold step to examine, analyze and present the understanding of an Indian political theory that can come with this kind of creative theory engagement, that would be very exciting. And I know that all of us would love to be a part of that, and that's a sort of inquiry that many of us would actually want to be very much engaged with. Just one minor point on publication. I deeply respect what you've been doing, Savita, you and Mani, and books that you've brought out, remarkable. Given the university system and that we are actually trying to set up something for young people, we might also have to align the publication, at least a part of our publication effort, towards journals that also are recognized by systems. So there is the tyranny of the UGC care list and that kind of thing. So we might have to think about that. And so part of our publication might have to be oriented towards that. I know this is not a very comfortable thing to say, but somebody has to say it. And I thought that, it's important. And, we all recognize each other's intent and, purpose, no question about it. So if we can align it in a way that helps the younger scholars as well, I think, and I'm sure we can all creatively think about that kind of a direction. So I think that this is a group and an effort which I've been part of in spirit, and in this time a little more in terms of actual involvement. And I think that we are doing something very, very interesting, and kudos to everyone who organized this impeccably. I think that too needs to be said. Absolutely impeccable organizing, and I think the team is to be lauded for that. This is a good occasion actually to say that. And thank you so much, and we look forward to doing more. Thank you.
Thank you. Suranjita, after this, Irfan. Yeah.
Well, I'm taken unaware. I'm caught by Manindra here. Kept insisting that I need to brief a little, so I'm just not prepared. But what comes to my mind, since we've been already part of this idea of creative theory for many years now, and we've been living this idea. An idea, I just thought I'll pen down few of those summary evaluative arguments so that I can put forth across what we have traveled over a period of time. I've been missing creative theory colloquium for long and come back after a gap of say 5 to 6 years. But I still see the idea alive, and it is going to be alive as long as we are there. So this idea cannot be perceived within closed door and closed system of knowledge. That's the first thing we all agree, because we have been engaging in debates, and not just debates for the sake of debating, but debating debates which suppress debates. It's very, very important. Therefore, giving more time to debates was important, because that would only generate alternative viewpoints, many a times even rival viewpoints, which are important for our understanding. Contradictory and conflicting viewpoints are certainly important for a comprehensive understanding. We all realize that. We realized this when we were students of Professor Mohanty, and we were doing research and doing it at a field level where we went with a prepared questionnaire
with the ontological meaning of concepts derived from the maybe Oxford Dictionary and so on and so forth, a household survey, and literally had to tear off that survey questionnaire when I had to listen to narratives of those who have experienced what is hunger. That was my area of research, and it doesn't have anything to do with nutrition and calories and just intake of or mapping BMI and all of that. So we need to problematize issues which are of concern, and it is very important to politicize the understanding, because this is what is happening of late. Manipulating ideas have made them depoliticized to an extent that we arrive at consensus very easily. And it is this that creative theory attempts to theorize. So the creativity is always a thinking mind. I remember the last class of Professor Randir Singh, the day he was retiring. I was fortunate enough to attend that, and unfortunate I missed him after that. He asked in the class, how many of you think? And there were no hands. So how do you dream? No hands. How are you alive? So we realized it's so important to think and then dream to be alive. And that's what takes us to creative theory. It's a thinking mind and a rethinking mind, and therefore theorizing creativity and a creative theorization becomes deeply interconnected. So it's not that we are contesting ontological meanings and we get into deontological meanings alone, but both being important, we realize that they are deeply normative, historical, and highly empirical, extremely implicit. It's very important to get into this aspect of creative theory, that it has an implication. It keeps us constantly getting back to the same idea and change our perspective and our interpretation. We reconceptualize, revise those theories. That's what keeps the theory alive. It's very, very important. So the grassroots understanding compels us to arrive at a situation where creative theory is elusive. It's not so easy to capture its understanding, or you can simplify it to an extent that you miss out on the complexities and the multiplicities of it, and the contradictions and conflicts. Many of them have already told us. So it's constantly re-emerging to adjust to the changed context. Even if the context doesn't change, I think our understanding about the context changes. So it's very, very important to get into this engagement and prevent others from disengaging with theories which are constant and theories which suppress debates. I think that's very important. I have been raising this often, that the political economy approach is one such approach which has taken us to the underlying causal, consequential, and interconnectedness of relationships. So you cannot actually get into those binaries or the dichotomy. I mean, these are all artificial, misleading, and historically mistaken. We realize that. So it's important to have your consciousness that you perceive. I mean, you can't say that you don't have your consciousness while you're perceiving. You consciously perceive a thing, and therefore interpretations, questions, contestations, crisis, understanding crisis, and moving beyond the closed system of knowledge matters. So if we even contest our own perception, it's very, very important. So I'll just take one minute. We need to go beyond what dogmatism and depoliticization to arrive at a very powerful methodology that should generate a creative thinking to keep creative theory alive. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great opportunity for me to be here as a co-panelist among some of the seniors and bright minds of India. Okay, thank you. For me, it has been a great journey, to be very honest, at my heart. personally my interaction with my supervisor, and he's so open. For example, we recently initiated a dialogue series called Vimarsh Cafe. It just came to our mind that we should do something which is very new, and what we do is that we invite those scholars who have completed their PhD program, and we provide them the platform to speak there and share their ideas. And we believe that this is a very distinctive and unique initiative that we have taken on, because what happens is that most of the time, whenever we complete our PhDs, our thesis remains most of the time in the library, and people hardly get to know about our work. So it has been a democratic initiative, and the other example of this creative theory group being so democratic is that I am speaking before many of the senior faculties here, including my supervisor. I think the challenge for creative theory lies to provide an alternative framework to liberal political theory. As students, as researchers, at least in our center, we are mostly bombarded with readings that have to do with liberal political theory. Liberal political theory came up with the assumption that these scholars, these liberal political theorists, will evacuate us from the social, which they assumed is something authoritarian, barbaric, totalitarian, so on and so forth. But as we move on from 16th, 17th century to the contemporary 21st century, I think it should be clear to all of us that this liberal framework is running short of answers to the crisis that humanity is facing right now. I mean, you are aware about the examples. For example, this social contract. I mean, Charles Mills calls it a racial contract. And what we missed out is that which creative theory I would say has to take head on is the question of Schmitt's political. I mean, it's a co-traveler in the liberal democratic framework. And this year's colloquium, technology and society, I think it was a right opportunity for all of us to deliberate upon, because it's here where the future of humanity rests on. I was more interested in knowing when technology, especially, I'm not against technology, but obviously there are certain technologies, for example, weapons of mass destruction, they are being lethally used against, certain sections of the people. When technology, mixes with this political, with this autonomic political, where state has the power to create more and more exceptional spaces. It's here where the problem lies. It's here where future of humanity has to be thought of. This is what I think is the biggest challenge for creative theory. I think the colloquium did identify certain spots which are so critical to our times, and all the discussions, raging across panels, all the important questions were taken head on. For example, the question of power, for example, the question of surveillance, for example, the question of democracy early in the morning today. But I was thinking that the paper should have been more empirical. I'm not against a philosophical conceptualization, but it would have been a better idea if there have been more papers on empirical data. This is from my side. Yeah, this is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jigyasa. After that, Janta. After that, Jigyasa.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll also start with expressing deep gratitude to the group, to our teachers, mentors, and everybody at Creative Social Theory, Foundation for Creative Social Research, Association for Creative Theory, for giving students, young researchers, young scholars a space to speak about newer ideas. I'll also go back to our center and talk about some of my own work, which was very difficult to put on the table because it did not really fit into the canonical liberal frame of understanding politics, and some of the I don't want to embarrass Maninder sir because it then seems like he's kind of evacuated all of us from there. But the fact that he was willing to listen to emotions and affect and engage with those ideas. So from that context, I'm here. I would probably not be able to do what Rityusha and Professor Madhulika Banerjee did of giving you a larger picture. I don't think that is not what I think I can do, but I will do 3 things, which is I'll pick some of the things that were said in the last 2.5 days and some of the things which were said right now, and then maybe think in terms of what I think I would take back home today. I also want to mention that we have an extended online colloquium on the 14th and the 15th, so this is not the end of discussion, and we'll probably have other series throughout the year, so the discussion has just begun, so to say. The first thing where I want to tie up, the first thing that I want to say and what I want to tie up here is the question of technology in archive. In one of the panels, the question of do digital objects exist? Do digital sentiments exist? Do digital emotions exist? That kind of question I want to raise. And I certainly believe that the combustibility of digital objects is not that digital objects are real, that there's something happening there that needs to be taken into account. And the archive with the capital A, which is historical state archive, which is done in a certain way, it's an old building, it's cumbersome to kind of, excavate information, knowledge out from. I think there's a way in which digital archiving with a smaller a has the capacity for what was said yesterday on the panel and what Professor Banerjee repeated, that the contemporary is the story of technology, social media. So there's a certain way in which if historians of tomorrow were to look at us, they would be able to look at a certain digital archive that is being constantly created. And I will go back to some of the things that were said today with respect to memification and a certain way in which there is a dominant majoritarian way of creating digital sentiments, emotions, affect, as well as objects. I would also like to, for us to consider that there is also an alternative way of creating alternative sentiments as well. And to locate the image and then the video of Neeraj Chopra who won the silver medal in the Olympics. The fact that his mother was randomly presented with a mic to give comments on the fact that he lost his gold to a Pakistani Muslim player, and in the most natural fashion, in her classic Haryanvi, she comes back and she says that ki jo gold jeeta hai, wo bhi hamara hi ladka hai. Translating to the one that was won gold is also our son. So there's a certain way. Now, why I'm highlighting this here is this could have been an obscure conversation video online, but I saw so many of us finding that video through reshare, and there was a certain way in which that video was being pinned as being a video of hope. So there is also a counter conversation which is creating a certain digital archive for us to build on in terms of politics of trust, politics of hope. And these parallel archives for historians of tomorrow, if not for theorists of today, will be a very important resource for us to tap into and look at what then one could think of in terms of, archive of establishing or talking about what can hate and then what can counter compassion, love, trust do to societies. From this, I'll take on to the second thing, which everybody's spoken about in terms of creative theory and creation of effective communities, which is what I think creative theory really is. We are an effective community of friends, mentors who come together, and there is more to just in the way that Rityusha just pointed out. There are normative questions, there are moral questions, but there are also questions of friendship. And something that I've been thinking about for some time now is what do we do with the liberal, non-liberal concepts of justice and equality and liberty and the rest of it without friendship? So is there a way to think about non-hierarchical spaces which are based on friendship and not ascriptive affinities, and can creatively we could think of what would friendship do to politics, to society, and is there then a way for us to think of affect communities online and then mobilizations, etc., because there's a certain way, and very this generation kind of an example is the music, the band called BTS, and the people across the world calling themselves ARMY. I was introduced to it, but the most interesting thing was that there was a very strong political intent behind their messages and their music, when people said, well, you know, in this individualized world, neoliberal world, there was certain hope that their music presented. And I think technology is one way that that music brand could reach the rest of the world. So the second thing that I want to, I'm taking home this evening is, can we build an effective community, both in the physical but also on the social, also with respect to the technological, and it kind of connects with my archive. The third thing that I'm saying is connecting the two is, what can I do individually? How will I build an effective community? And I'm thinking in terms of creating individual, personal, creative archive online. So coming back to the paper on cognitive freedom, and how we, instead of thinking that social media technology is an extension of us, instead of feeling as if we could use it for creating moral, normative ideas, instead it feels like we are entrapped by it. What can we do with that entrapment? And taking a cue from that kind of paper, that kind of understanding, what would a creative, personal archive look like? What can I do on social media instead of the radical disengagement which was being suggested? I'm not very sure if radical disengagement is even possible, or for that matter desirable. So as creatively as could be possible, what would a creative archive of my life, or of my politics, of my work, of my society, and of my effective community do for me to be able to connect with similar such presence? So those are my three things that I thought I could pick from everything that happened in the last 2 days, and I would like to take back. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful.
सबसे पहले तो मैं बहुत ही कृतज्ञता अपनी व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ प्रोफेसर मणिंद्रनाथ ठाकुर साहब के प्रति, और यहाँ बैठे जो भी मेरे शिक्षक हैं, जिनका मैं डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ। स्वतंत्र भारतीय चिंतन परंपरा की निरंतरता को क्रिएटिव थियरी कोलोक्वियम के ज़रिए पिछले 11 वर्ष से बनाए रखते हुए इस साल गरिष्ठ और जटिल ज्ञान मीमांसा में लगभग 9 सत्रों तक भीगने के बाद यह आखिरी सत्र हमें अकादमिक सुकून और साथ ही बेचैनी व कशमकश के कुछ पल देता है। यही इसका हासिल भी है। सबके पेपर्स को सुनने के बाद मैंने यह पाया कि सारे साहित्य, सारे दर्शन, सारे सिद्धांत और पारंपरिक व आधुनिक ज्ञान के मूल में प्रेम, करुणा, बंधुत्व, स्वतंत्रता, समता, गरिमा, संवेदना और चेतना है। इन मूल्यों को स्थापित करने का मतलब ही आदमी को स्थापित करना है, और सबकी चिंताओं में और उनके सवालों में यह हमें रिफ्लेक्ट होता हुआ दिखाई पड़ा। मानवीय स्पर्श, हथेली की ऊष्मा, माथे पर एक बोसे, किसी के अस्तित्व की अनुभूति और आश्वस्ति का क्या कोई स्थानापन्न हो सकता है? गांधी 1930 के दशक में रूस गए और उनसे पूछा कि मिस्टर गांधी, हाउ डू यू सी द फ्यूचर ऑफ USSR? एंड ही रिस्पॉन्डेड वेरी ब्यूटिफुली दैट अ सिस्टम विदाउट सोल कैनॉट लास्ट लॉन्ग। और 90 तक आते आते वह सिस्टम ध्वस्त हो गया। हम तकनीक के बारे में बहुत तरह की बातें कर रहे थे, और इस कोलोक्वियम की खूबसूरती यही है कि इसमें बेतरतीबी में भी एक तरतीब है। और गीता के तीसरे अध्याय का 35वां श्लोक जो है उसको एक तरह से डिफाई भी करते हैं मणिन्द्रनाथ ठाकुर साहब और हम सब लोग मिलके। उसमें कहते हैं श्रेयान स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनिष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनम श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावह। It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's assigned duty is better than engaging in another's specialized profession, for to follow another's path is dangerous. जबकि यहाँ ह्यूमैनिटीज़ के लोग हैं, साइंस के लोग हैं, सोशल साइंसेस के लोग हैं और हम सब लोग एक मानस मंथन करते हुए एक कहीं पहुँचने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। एक पुराना गाना है कि एक सवाल तुम करो, एक सवाल मैं करूं, हर सवाल का जवाब बस सवाल ही हो। तो मैं थोड़ा इस तरह के कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में मुझे नहीं पता कि मेरी बातों का कोई मतलब निकल रहा है कि नहीं, लेकिन गालिब का सहारा मैं लेना चाहता हूँ कि देखना तकरीर की लज्जत की जो उसने कहा, देखना तकरीर की लज्जत की जो उसने कहा, मैंने ये जाना कि गोया ये भी मेरे दिल में है। तो समकालीनता और युगीनता पर थोड़ी सी दृष्टि डालने से हमें आज की जटिलताओं को समझने में सहूलत होती है। और मंगलेश कहते थे कि सरल होना साधारण होना नहीं है। हम जटिलता का सिंप्लीफिकेशन और एक जनरलाइजेशन करने की जद्दोजहद के चलते ही आज इकट्ठे हैं। और तकनीक और माध्यम के प्रयोक्ता कौन हैं, यूज़र कौन हैं, उनके जीवन मूल्य क्या हैं, उनकी समाजी, सियासी, सांस्कृतिक परवरिश किस तरह के वातावरण में हुई है, ये सब कुछ उनकी ग्राह्यता यानी रिसेप्शन को तय करते हैं। किट्स ने कहा ओड ऑन एग्रेशन अर्न में कि हर्ड मेलोडीज आर स्वीट बट दोज अनहर्ड आर स्वीटर। आने वाले दिनों में हम कुछ और शायद इस पर चिंतन कर सकें, लेकिन सर्विलांस पर कई प्रेजेंटर्स ने अपनी चिंता व्यक्त की। हम लोगों को कम्युनिकेशन थियरीज़ में स्नोडन से साबका पड़ा और स्नोडन ने बहुत खूबसूरत बात कही कि आई डोंट वांट टू लिव इन अ वर्ल्ड वेयर एवरीथिंग दैट आई से, everything I do, everyone I talk to, every expression of creativity or love or friendship is being recorded. और ये कम भयावह स्थिति नहीं है। मैकलुहान ने बहुत प्रोफेटिक स्टेटमेंट दिया कि मीडियम इज़ मैसेज, और उसको कहीं गलती से वो छप गया एक जगह कि मीडियम इज़ मसाज। तो मैकलुहान ने उस पर अपोलोजेटिक वो नहीं हुए, उन्होंने कहा if medium is message then it needs be massaged। और आज की तारीख में टेक्नोलॉजी के डेमोक्रेटाइजेशन के एरा में जो सबसे मिसिंग बात है और जो गांधी भी चिंतित होते थे वो है गेट कीपिंग की थियरी। बतौर जर्नलिस्ट गांधी जी ने कहा द ट्रू फंक्शन ऑफ जर्नलिज्म is not to stock the public mind with wanted and unwanted impressions, but to educate the public mind, and therefore a reporter has to apply their conscience what to report and what not to report. तो हम लोग डिजिटल डिटॉक्स और डिजिटल वेलबींग की बात करते हैं। मुझे 2013 का वो दौर याद आ रहा है जब हम 10 रुपये में 1 घंटे साइबर कैफ़े में बिताते थे और उसको 10 टकिया जर्नलिज्म कहते थे। आज वो टेक्नोलॉजी सबके पास है, साइबर कैफ़े जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। तो इसीलिए हम लोगों को लगा कि साइबर कैफ़े की जगह थोड़ा विमर्श कैफ़े में भी बैठा जाए और उस ग्लोबल विलेज को सही मायने में हम रूबरू कुछ ये कर सकें। आखिरी बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, ऑटोनॉमी पर बात हुई। 5-6 साल पहले 62 संस्थानों को इस सरकार ने स्वायत्तता दी, और ये वो स्वायत्तता नहीं थी जिसको चेरिश किया जा सके। सब लोग परेशान हो गए। ये स्वायत्तता जैसे भक्त कितना खूबसूरत शब्द है, उसका अर्थ है, लेकिन वो घबराहट पैदा किया इस स्वायत्तता ने। तो राजनीति भी स्वायत्तता खोती जा रही, और हमारा पार्टिसिपेटरी डेमोक्रेसी का जो इलेक्टोरल प्रोसेस है और जो पॉलिटिशियन और पॉलिटिकल वर्कर के बीच एक ऑर्गेनिक सिम्बायोटिक रिलेशनशिप था, उसको कुछ दलालों ने कुछ जिसको कहते हैं पोल स्ट्रेटेजिस्ट, उसने उस भूमिका को इस तरह से छिछला किया है जैसे इस देश में भक्त और भगवान के बीच आजकल बिचौलिए घूम रहे हैं, वैसे ही राजनीतिज्ञ और राजनीतिक कार्यकर्ता के बीच कुछ आ गया है। इसको भी हमें शायद ब्रिज करने के लिए इस टेक्नोलॉजी के जो अपने कंसर्न हैं, जैसे जैसे तकनीक की स्वायत्तता बढ़ती जाएगी, बतौर मनुष्य हमारी स्वायत्तता में दखलंदाजी भी बढ़ेगी। तो इकबाल ने उस ज़माने में कहा जब ईवीएम नहीं आया था कि है दिल के लिए मौत मशीनों की हुकूमत, है दिल के लिए मौत मशीनों की हुकूमत, एहसास-ए मुरव्वत को कुचल देते हैं आलात, आलात इंस्ट्रूमेंट को कहते हैं। तो इसका जितना कम से कम हस्तक्षेप हो लोकतंत्र भी उतना ही एक तरह से ज़िंदा रहेगा। और आखिर में एक बात कहते हुए मैं ख़त्म करूं, आरफा सईद ज़हरा हमारे हमसाया मुल्क की एक बहुत संजीदा रचनाकार हैं। उन्होंने कहा इल्म बहुत ज़रूरी है ज़िंदगी के लिए, मगर सिर्फ मुलाजमत के लिए नहीं। ज़िंदगी को मुलाजमत चाहिए, मुलाजमत को तो ज़िंदगी नहीं चाहिए। आज आप देखिए लोगों की नज़र किस पे है। जब आप किसी से कहते हो वो बहुत कामयाब हैं, मैं सोचती हूँ बहुत कामयाब है, मोहब्बत बहुत करते होंगे। मेरे दिल में अभी भी ये ख्याल आता है खुश ज़बान होंगे, खुश अखलाक होंगे, मीठा बोलते होंगे, इनकी समझ में नए लफ्ज़ आते होंगे, अच्छे लफ्ज़ आते होंगे। पैसा ज़रूरत ख़रीदता है, तहज़ीब आरज़ू ख़रीदती है। ज़रूरत और आरज़ू में बड़ा फ़र्क है। आपको यकीन नहीं आएगा, मैं अभी भी दुआ करती हूँ कि मेरी सारी आरज़ुएं मत पूरी कर देना, फिर मुझे क्या चीज़ बेचैन रखेगी। कोई चीज़ तो हो जो मुझे बेचैन रखे और आगे बढ़ाती रहे। तो रिंग आउट द ओल्ड एंड रिंग इन द न्यू, रिंग आउट द फॉल्स, रिंग इन द ट्रू। थैंक यू।
Anuradha, then Mallikarjun, Abichal, and Anantagiri, then we'll come back to the veterans. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like Madhulika and the rest, I also
Yeah, we have to be brief because,
but I have been here this time, and I have some things to say about how, like Madhulika, about how the sessions could be organized, and some things about technology. And I mean, if we look at the history, I think we can say that we had a period when our submission was to God and theology and the priesthood, and then perhaps to the state. And we learned to overcome the hegemony of both religion, then the state. And now I'm glad we had the occasion to think about technology and how we must not submit to it. So the question is not that we do not use technology, but we learn to use it with discernment. But that discernment is just as rejection will not do. What did not come up quite clearly in or as clearly as it should have in these 3 days was that it's not just a matter of distinguishing the good use of technology from bad. That we seem to assume that yes, technology has good uses and bad uses, and then of course the problems of using both, or the same person using both, and so contradictory movements and things like that. So I felt that there was some need for historicization of technology, but not just historicization, but therefore a classification which took account of the epistemological and metaphysical and design changes of technology, which makes which sort of places the modern technology that we are dealing with in a locates it in a particular time in history. And I would say that this is really an enlightenment project and a post-enlightenment development. And therefore the quality of technology or the very structure of technology I would say changed. Not the purpose, the extent of that purpose, how much we are wanting to interfere with. I think it is enlightenment and post-enlightenment which saw the development of cartography, for instance, shipbuilding of a particular sort, which envisaged the harnessing of nature and its resources to an extent which would be counterproductive to humanity. So I think in a sense the tendency was to say that no, we can't give up on technology, and therefore it sort of lent on the side of a resignation or submission, or this is what we have and this is what we need to deal with. But I'm trying to break that problem down, because I realize that then people would say that, oh, we can't do without technology, what are you talking? I mean, we can't go back to... so I think what we need is an analysis of the... so I think, so because we must realize the expense at which we are beginning to, or we are submitting to this technology, and the dependence on a rationality that prioritizes the modern Enlightenment science over all other indigenous, some of this came up, over all indigenous rationalities, sciences and crafts. So that is another point that I wanted to make, that what I missed was a discourse on the craft, because that is one sign of an alternative technology and life world that we seem to have decided is a thing of the past. It is a sort of relic, so the rationality of these indigenous sciences and crafts, except as which we now treat as exotic relics of a dying past, whether we see any possibility in them at all to counter this hegemony of post-enlightenment technology. So in terms of the universalism of this enlightenment technology, it is only the crafts that can argue for a plurality of technologies and a plurality of, to break the hegemony. So I can only suggest, it might seem an impossible project, but that we should at least not give up on that before we have started thinking about it. And in terms of the method of study, then this, I think, against Irfan's understanding, I as a philosopher would argue that I found that now the social sciences are emphasizing data and empirical data, which prioritizes reality reduced to truth. In politics, rights and power, which both reduce a theory of sovereignty to a theory of power. I think so. All alternative notions of sovereignty have been set to rest, and partly post-enlightenment technology is a co-partner in this argument for reducing all theories of sovereignty to a theory of power. And I must like to remind ourselves that rights and the power of the state are two sides of the same coin. So an argument for rights is just succumbing to an argument for a theory of power, and acknowledging the right of or the power of the state. So this, I thought, from reflecting on these 2 days, and if I can have a minute or two, yeah. So I think that this recognition that that once we have succumbed to this theory of power, then structurally we can only work within a system of hierarchies. I mean, we might delude ourselves to that we can break out of it, but I feel again and again more that a theory of rights is actually succumbing to this thing. And what are we missing then? If I can invoke Gandhi, what we are missing is the push towards transformative experiments with truth, with non-violence, and with a cultivation of the senses and conscience, and a prioritizing of conscience, which in the modern world and with modern technology seems to be an impossible task. So I have this much to say about our approach to technology. I just need a minute to say that again I disagree. I'm a bit old-fashioned, and I have looked forward over the years to the CTC seminars with such great enthusiasm. I plan what to wear, I plan what to say, I plan, to meet so many friends and make new friends every time and this is perhaps I've been telling, I've been arguing with Maninder, but I've also been telling him that this is perhaps the only forum which has session after session which is so rigorously worked out. I mean, there are people who come here with their, not just with their heart and soul, but with their application of mind. For 3 days, it's no small effort, and it's a great pleasure. And I'm glad that I have been accepted into this fold, or I feel at home. Again and again, I cannot stop saying that. But I'm old-fashioned with respect to this labor of discussion that we get into every year, and I have been complaining to Maninder that this assembly line industrialized assembly line discussion that we have over 3 days, which is I find younger students speaking at such a fast rate, because they need to finish what they have planned to say, and they need to complete their argument, because of course it won't make sense if they haven't completed their argument, but to keep up with a person's thought. And I don't think that is solved by circulating a paper earlier. The whole fun of and the magic of hearing a presentation, and for a person to present with all his gusto his paper, I mean, I would surely miss. So I am being old-fashioned, and I would like that leisure and discussion. No, I want to finish this, because I mean, this is what would remove the magic and the the fire that burns so brightly in the CTC sessions, that I really don't want to keep it a personal fight between me and Maninder, but I want to open it up, because there are no, I will finish what I have to say. So I would like the pause and leisure to think, and this is what the CTC brings as a refreshing breath of air in our suffocated and polluting times. So long live the CTC, and thank you.
Thank you. I thought I was the most old-fashioned. I request you not to use that term, and it is impossible to do it. You said, these transformative experiments with truth. They are going on. They are going on in India and in many parts of the world. And I think hope is another defining characteristic, just as your participation is a defining characteristic of CTC. Malikarjun.
So we really have very little time now.
Now Anujay has started the stopwatch.
Sadly, yeah, that happens.
5 minutes.
So always difficult to speak after your teacher, because then audience only gets to hear more diluted version. I would just begin by saying that any investigation, first and foremost, is to know like how must I act or what must I do. So in this time when we are reflecting on technology, the question is like, what is it that we are seeing? There is a wealth of data, but what is it that we must see here? So I would just like to say that the first part, of course, is the digital revolution that is upon us. Now, the digital revolution, now what is its nature? Some people spoke on the nature of digital object and what are its implications. Heidegger said that cybernetics would be the end of philosophy, and cybernetics as the total usurpation of both the object and subject into the enframing mesh makes it clear that the subject today is totally seen. So what someone was saying, that the old adage that everyone wants to be seen, they say to the lover, in the informational age it is perverted that you are seen all the time when you don't want to be seen. Now also the informational age comes with a cosmology of contingency. By that what happens is the poles of being and becoming are pulled apart, and what we are left with is a continuous flux. Things keep changing, images keep pushing, and how does one keep up with flux? So to give an example, that a mountain and a river make a stable sort of a system together, but when it's only the pole of becoming, that it's only change, it leads to a flood. The another implication is the information overload, or now what Shomik spoke about. Byul-Chung Han says that we live in a burnout society, that we are burnt out so much by this continuous deluge of information and images and all sorts. So, and he says that we, of course, now live not in a disciplinary society, but a control society where freedom becomes our medium of domination. And the digital medium turns freedom and blurs the line between freedom and addiction. So on one level, you have human race's will to power to sort of at a transplanetary scale, but at a micro level, sort of it seems that the will has completely withered out. Now to come to the more, the second part is there were a lot of presentations which showed how we can use the same technology of domination and use it for resistance. Now from the critical theory of technology tradition, the problem there is that we have an instrumental theory of technology which says, according to which technology is value neutral and it depends on how you use it. Now, of course, that is problematic because technology has substantive impacts and it shapes a particular society in which it's deployed. Now, it is not to say that there are not interpretive flexibilities, that there is a technology and I can use it for some other purpose. But the problem there is that we forever keep playing catch up, that someone else dictates the technology and you play catch up again and again. So what we need is a sort of epistemological theory of what is a good technical design. And that seems to be lacking. Like what I noticed is sort of in my own research that the technological solutions which keep coming up and the discussions, there is a sense like Fukuoka says that science, what it does is it first creates a hole in the floor in a slab and then fills it and repairs it and pats itself on the back. So now we have air pollution, so you come out with air filters and then it's a great technological victory.
Your time is up.
That is too quick. I have 5 more minutes, or I just want to make one last point on engineering education. That's why engineering education becomes so important, that we have epidemic of suicides in engineering colleges, and the solution seems to be just increasing more therapists and all. But what I feel like really lacking is that
the curriculum and the epistemological setting of engineering doesn't allow for students to have any mission possible ever. So we keep training sort of people to sell them to their highest bidders. And what happens also in engineering is that theory and practice come apart. So science happens separately, engineering happens separately. So investigation and discovery happens for the sole sake of curiosity, and the application is decided for someone else. So in the movie of Oppenheimer, you say that when Oppenheimer is asked, like, should we drop the bomb or not? He says that I don't know. He says my job is to make the bomb. And then he'll say the engineer, so of course that is a complex example because science and engineering meet in making of the bomb. But traditionally the scientists say, I'm following my curiosity. The engineer will, he'll say the engineer did it. Engineer will say, I just made the bomb, the politician did it. And the politician, well, God knows what he will say. But of course, so now just concluding that T.S. Eliot says that poets are the unelected legislators of the world. In today's time, I think it's a technologists and the scientists who are the unelected legislators of the world. And therefore, the battle is not just political, because it is more epistemological and metaphysical, because the scientists and the technologists already offer a plethora of choices, only amongst which a politician can choose. So, and just to add just one last point, Illich has this concept. So in engineering education, that should also come up, is that a difference between monotechniques and polytechniques. So monotechniques are those which ally themselves with only sort of a rationalistic sort of power associated way to be developed, whereas polytechnics allow for multiple sort of needs to be addressed. Now, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Each one of them requires so much more discussion. Yes, Abhijit. I don't want to sound like a TV anchor, but he has started the timer.
Sir.
Okay, please. No, take it easy. Couple of minutes, main points. Yes, please.
Just reflect
Yes,
on the...
start, sir.
Okay, start now.
So forget about the minutes. Your main thing, say.
Yeah. So it's like little unfair to us, sir. Sorry that Mallikarjun and I am getting only 5 minutes to speak, because there is so much to speak, right? So first, like, wow, like a poetic presentation from Jayant Bhai, and I was like, and all the stalwarts that are sitting. So, and I would like to start from this vantage point from famous communication theorist, as Jayant Bhai also pointed out, like, the medium is the message by Marshall McLuhan, right? And then this is the message that we are trying to, like, embedded in technology, talking about technology. And I'm also share sentiments with Madhulika ma'am when she said that she is not prepared because she did not know. And there is also where I stand. The only saving grace I could say is, like, probably I gave 70% attention to all the speakers that were in 2.5 days. But I would like to thank Association for Creative Theory and Foundation of Creative Social Research, Herbert Market Society USA, Indian International Sensor Raza Foundation, and Shanti Sayog, and Professor Thakur. And special mention to, Sanjana, Jigyasa Di, and Sarvesh, my friend here. Like, they have been in constant support, and they believed in me that this is my first collaboration, and they have believed in me that I could pull it off, like being in the organizing team. And thanks for being an amazing support throughout. And I'm so honored to sit with all the stalwarts here, right? Like, I couldn't imagine that I'll be speaking, sitting on this panel, and especially sitting beside Jayant Bhai, like, oof, like, I don't know the sound, but before coming to JNU,
Thanksgiving. Make a point.
Sir, please.
You have 2.5.
Yeah, I'll conclude, but just there are some overwhelming emotions. I'll conclude everything. Otherwise, I've always asked questions, so my point was already made. So, yeah, Jayant Bhai, his presidential debate speech, I watched it on loop, and Rohan Soun's speech, I've watched it on loop. And now I will come to the crisis that Trivedi sir were talking about. So the crisis I too see, I can I can identify two different crises. So now I'm gonna increase my speed. So the first is technology that we're talking about, and the second one is the climate crisis that talking about. And the one presentation that linked to both the crisis were somewhat touched was by Immaculada Kanguso, when she referred technology as a double-edged sword, and also the good technology, how that good technology is also harmful for the nature. Then Navin Thayal talked about theoretical conceptions of technology that is absent in India. That when we are talking about technology, we only reflect upon the social aspect, or what effect that does it have on the social aspect, but not how theoretically we are not conceptualizing technology in that sense. And through this creative theory colloquium, it has been so helpful, building networks, and talking to fellow panelists and everybody. So it has been helpful in that sense. And then talking about linking it with democracy, medicine, quantum physics, and all the other panels that were discussed. So I got to learn about that there is something beyond Foucault as well. It's not just panopticon, but also there are many things that I'll be looking into. And then the possibilities of technology, that how technology can make material out of matter. So when the presentation was about air, so it's just a matter, but then technology is building it into material. Then we can calculate, measure air quality index and all. Then linking technology to sports. Amazing presentation by Dr. Vidya on technology and sports. Now I come to what I find was lacking in this colloquium was the aspect of privacy, I might say, but not privacy specifically, but data science. And I come from what empirical data Irfan Bhai was talking about. So Reliance Foundation gave this conception, right? That data is the new oil. So now what is data science doing? We have to look into that. But because we are generating so much data, while I am talking, we are generating so much data. So much data mining is going on. So through that data mining, there is privacy, there is surveillance, so this can be discussed. This should be discussed. And we are talking about this laptop, and when we talk about social networking platforms or media, television, we are talking about what we are seeing, what we are looking at the screen. But what is happening behind the screen? That also data science gives about. What is happening behind it? As Susanna Zuboff talked about, right? She worked in Google, and all the humanists that came out and they revolted, and then the series was formed, The Social Dilemma, and then it was burst, what they are doing with us. And another aspect that I thought that is missing. Okay, 1 minute. Another.
Your time is up.
I'm up. Okay.
6 minutes.
Oh yeah. I sorry. That was it. So yeah. Another aspect is the psychological aspect that I wanted to talk about. Because we are living in two worlds. That is the real world, if I may say it that way, and the virtual world. And mostly we are living in the virtual world. So what is the psychological effect that it has? And we know that, that one presentation also talked about ADHD, but we have to dig deep into the mental illness that is caused because of technology. And on the affective communities, building affective communities that Jigyasa was talking about. So I'll just take this point and try to highlight that transnational communities are being formed, effective, And when she mentioned that army, BTS, she said. So one important thing was there was this one friend of mine who I love army, मैं army से हूँ. So other person, one of my friends asked that कहाँ posted हो, So we don't know, but these communities are built transnationally. And then the last point I wanted to touch is that. Jayant Bhai talked about Snowden and how constant surveillance is going on, and that reminds me of George Orwell, The Big Brother, 1984 novel. And what I wanted to try to say is that and no offense to the theorists and philosophers, but I have not learned much from the theorist and philosopher, but I have learned much from the literature that is like from totalitarianism and like these all concepts. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being.
Ananta, please. Yeah. G.N. Trivedi, then Manindra to conclude. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Mohanty and fellow travelers. Beginning with this theme of technology and society, we are invited to think in relational ways. Which is missing is an invitation for co-creation. Science, and in terms of society, linking society to nature and divine, and in terms of science, engagement with science in the last 150 years, beginning with Edmund Husserl's crisis of European sciences, and that crisis was accompanied by a deep meditation on life world, followed by R. Sundararajan's crisis of Europe, beyond the crisis of European sciences, where he talks about positivist turns, Professor Jit Ubroy's work on science, positivism and semiology. Therefore, when we talk of technology, what is missing here is the technology of self. Technology of power needs to be accompanied by engagement with technologies of self from multiple traditions of the world. Therefore, as this is a transdisciplinary inquiry, what requires is a transdisciplinary dialogues on the themes itself. For example, while speaking about technology, not being imprisoned within logic of technology of power, but opening ourselves with varieties of technologies of self, which is not just an adjunct to the logic of the panopticon. The second theme here is in terms of hierarchy. Now, as the contestation of hierarchy also invites us to explore non-hierarchical and post-hierarchical movements and formations. And it is in that spirit, to put it in terms of civilizational discourse, we might note Dumo's construction of Indian society is as homo hierarchicus and Western and homo equalis, and interrogation of that. So today, how do we create post-hierarchical formations? And in the spirit, Professor Mohanty's lecture yesterday, how do we think about homo samata and homo samatva? Now, speaking about hierarchy and contestation, we also need to bring the issue of transcendence in this way, that in the Indian tradition and all tradition, there is a dialectic between what anthropologist Stanley Tambaya wrote almost 50 years ago, is world conqueror and world renouncers. So vis-a-vis technology, where it has been a logic of world conquest, at the same time there are traditions of renunciation. Speaking about the Luddite movement, how do we cultivate a contemporary technology of renunciation vis-a-vis elements like this, switching off our mobile phone? That brings to I will just take 2 minutes or so, even 1 minute, a couple of themes only. One is that this whole creative theory, as it has been manifested with creative society and creative self, what requires further engagement is critique, crisis, transformation and transcendence. What has been missed in our dialogue so far, and I am posing it in an invitational way, is a notion of transcendence. Speaking about power and suffering, and as important Rityusha referred to the issue of samvedana, we need to relate it to the question of civilizational transition. Professor Mohanty began his remark on the first day about loss of civilizational confidence. That loss of civilizational confidence also is a question for us, what is the limits of confidence itself? Therefore, our faith in civilizational confidence is part of a civilizational creativity of civilizational transition. It is in that context, the civilizational transition that we are part of is confronted with the challenge of building a new civilization of ahimsa. Finally, in terms of language, because technology and language and Edmund Husserl's notion of the life world must be accompanied by living words, and therefore what kind of new languages we need to build, and that relates to the question of the mind, because not only technology and society but mind. Yes, I'm just concluding with the notion of the mind, and just one line about how do we create practices of mindfulness and mindlessness, and finally about suffering, hope and healing, that how an engagement like this is confronted with the task of social and planetary healing, and that requires evolutionary suffering, and that evolutionary suffering is part of creation of evolutionary flourishing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to take much time. Just I want to focus two things. But first, before that, I would like to say that this is such a rigorous consistency. This is 11th year of colloquium, and it gives sense of satisfaction. I have been all through, except few colloquium I missed. So that gives me a sense of satisfaction, and I think that what I'm thinking, there is a platform. Even after retirement, I'm thinking to do something meaningful. So credit goes to my long association with DCRC, Tuesday seminar, then DCRC, and 11th year of creative theory. We all have been greatly indebted to Professor Mohanty. Professor Mohanty, not as a person. No, I'm just using, yes, because, just I'm coming to the point. Because he taught us that question is very important, and Jayant just cited one song, Sawal ka sawal, jawab sawal hi hai. So that I'm and as Professor Giri cited, Professor Mohanty's studies self and self, and then self and self is not recognizing the difference. That is the power. And in the beginning, just I'm coming to the power. Power is so important. We can't simply wish it away. Douglas Kellner, he wake up in the morning and just started, but there was a historical power formation. This is very important. Creative theory, if you can't, we are engaging with the notion of power. He started from Greek society, oral tradition, then modernity, then 60s and this contemporary technological age. So every historical stages, they are creating a kind of power. And the deconstruction of that power is very important. Sanjana was presenting paper today, and she was highlighting the processes that authoritarian right, majoritarian consent. But this majoritarian consent is not the power existing in our own country. There are global support for that. There is a need to highlight that also. We were taught comparative theory students, Theda Scotchpol, that revolution is not possible without some favorable external conditions. Crisis of politics is there, but some external condition is very important. So that's in that sense I was talking of power. Power is very important, and that we have learned. And technology, how we are dealing with technology. Technology, we can't wish it away. But as yesterday, Giri again, Professor Giri quoted Professor Mohanty that we are losing civilizational confidence. And we are realizing that there is a need to divert, but there is a need to bring people in the center of that technological power. There is a need to emphasize the popular sovereignty. Technology, we can't wish it away, but multiple stakeholders. This is very important. We have to create a public technological infrastructure. It should not be monopolized. The corporate monopoly on social media, that there is a need to reverse this process. And the parallel you are talking about, parallel archive and all, unless you engage technology in a more pro-people way, you can't understand the power, technological power, and how this power should be made horizontal, bringing people in the mainstream. The second thing is that just one sentence and then I stop.
He wants to stop the recording. Does he want to stop the recording?
Yeah, they stop.
So let them stop. We are recording in any case. Doesn't matter. Unless they're throwing us out, we can go for 5 more.
So, but just 1 minute. Yes, crisis is also very important. And the first session, she was talking about crisis, that self-reliance, the notion of nuclear power and all, how they have suppressed indigenous knowledge, the fishermen, how the acute consciousness of ecology, they are demanding that the power held for corporate, and that should be challenged. So that the crisis you were talking about, that was addressed by one of the panelists in first session. So that this is the crisis. There are different kind of crises, but unfortunately we are more concerned with the critic. We are not addressing the crisis. I'm not talking about. I'm saying this in a general sense. We have been. Kamal was saying that I was a part of some groups. You are participating in the power process, the power struggle, demanding of forest law. He was saying that he was a part of some of the groups demanding forest law for indigenous people. So that crisis is important. Simply the theorization, Foucault and all, that is not very important. Important, but without addressing crisis, they are not important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we will continue this discussion, and we'll have more occasion to reflect upon the conference also. I'll just make 3-4 brief points. The first thing is about the conference, and then about something about the organizational thing. I think what have we, I want to assess it, I will assess at 3 levels. One is empirical, other is theoretical, and third is philosophical. I think this conference has been empirically very rich. All of us have got various areas where we don't even know anything to be aware of, and we now can have a very comprehensive idea, empirical idea to theorize. I don't think we have started theorizing it. I don't think the conference can actually be the site of theorization, but I'm sure all of us now will carry the empirical details that we are having, and that will help us in theorizing the relation between technology and society. I think Jigyasa was mentioning earlier that probably we have missed one major thing in that theorization part, is the state. So now I feel that we should have written technology, state and society. Centrality of a state is missing out somewhere, and this missing out may not be normal. It could be very techno-driven. Because I think that this neoliberal state is creating a kind of atmosphere where we are moving, our attention has shifted from state to social dimension. So one has to be very cognitively conscious about it. State, I remember Professor Mohanty's old formulation, I don't know if he remembers that, Silicon State. Because I remember we in the Holi we gave him a title, the President of the Silicon State. So that time we brought this idea, and now we have moved out from there. Silicon State is a very old thing now. Now this is a new name we have to think of. I mean, I call it techno-authoritarian state, but maybe that is not enough. That's true, but that doesn't explain everything now. I mean, maybe we can qualify that also probably. But imagine that time, I think this is 1985 when you first time talked about, we didn't even have idea that silicon is becoming so powerful. So maybe it's quantum state now. The kind of things developing is beyond silicon now.
Quantum operates on chips also.
But quantum may operate beyond chips also. That's what they are saying now. So we don't know. I mean, there's something to be investigated. But what I'm suggesting is that we have to be very, very cautious about the emerging nature of the state. What I see in political science and with all our friends, their overemphasis on the government and complete ignorance of the state. So they think state and government has merged completely. I think that, as Satish always earlier he formulated, now I don't know if he agrees with that, he said the difference between the present regime and the previous regime is that the managers have changed. The state remains the same. There's a neo-colonial state is marching. It will keep changing the managers depending on who is more adequate. Of course, I mean, it's not that there's no difference between the managers. That is one thing. Theoretically, we really have to connect these things together. That work has to be done. And philosophically, I don't think we have really reached to the level of philosophical discussion. Because the philosophy section, I feel that most of our philosophers in India are still suffering from what Akhil Belgrami calls cognitive mimicry. That we keep repeating that thing. Heidegger, we have not moved out from Heidegger as yet. How to philosophize, and something that you did yesterday, and that was very much in the Dayakrishnan tradition. Dayakrishna probably was the only person whom I find, he always said that we have to get back to philosophizing, not only reflecting on philosophers. So that level we have not achieved. So questions that Anuradha has been raising about the truth or about nature of technology itself, epistemic nature of technology, or the way modernity conceives technology, or what you used to argue about industrial revolutionary ethos, which continues to be our guiding principle as yet. Probably those things we have to rethink and get back to that level, which I'm sure if we continue with this for the year, we will continue talking and reflecting upon this. I think the task before us is to understand, to explain, and to transform, or to think of transformative struggle. So this churning has to be continuous, which creative theory's mandate is. I'll just say that we have big dreams ahead, and let me talk about that. We are yet to really arrive on. We have been doing a lot of conferences. 11th, I am not very happy about it. Of course, organizedly very successful that we have 11 conferences, but we have not really worked on perspectives. Each conference has become an isolated thing. We have not worked on that conference properly to think of a perspective on which we can do further churning. We will not agree with that. I mean, Dhananjay has been asking, or Ajay is not here, he has been asking that, what is your canon? I don't want to form a canon as Professor Mohanty suggests, but we definitely have to have some kind of framework there which can be further debated, and as I say, it's unending, continuously evolving. Of course, we have been speaking, one thing is very common, and Dhananjay said this time that great thing about this theory, this group is that in 11 years, we have never left one point speaking from the margins and for the margin. So we are speaking truth for the margin without any hesitation. That's a great thing. But we also have to think of creating a new utopia at this time of absolute dystopia. I mean, technology has created a dystopia. Now, what kind of new utopia can we create? What can we do? And there, I think, Savita's effort of bringing poetry in, and in November, if that conference happened, that conference should not become a literature conference only. It should be a creative theory conference on literature, so that we integrate that aspect. But literature has a lot of possibilities through which we can not only express, also understand a lot of things. We don't have burden of quoting people, Heidegger or anybody in literature. We can straightway talk about the truth, whatever we understand. So probably that dimension we have to see. And fortunately, there are a lot of poets in creative theory, and that's the integral part of creative theory. And we have not been able to integrate that in the creative theory as such, even today. We think it's, just my problem also, because I understand very little poetry, but we have to make efforts to understand that, I think. another point that I was waiting entire year to apologize to Anuradha. Because, I mean, this is one point that I have been talking about. From participation to community formation, we have drastically failed there. Not that we have failed, I'm sure we are developing a community, of course, but large number of people who come to us, they come and present a paper and then go. So there's no dialogue with them. Maybe a lot of issues are there. I was just thinking maybe if we take the entire creative theory enterprise outside Delhi, then only it's possible to prison everybody for 2-3 days and force them to dialogue outside the meeting and all that. That could be one thing. So I wrote to our brother last time when she did not come for a session that this is a big problem, and she got very angry because he informed me that she was not coming, and yet I wrote in the public forum that, well, you didn't come and that's not fair. But the point was to make everybody know that this is something that we expect. That, I mean, I go by Ranveer Singh's idea. He used to say, if I'm coming for the conference, I will coming for the entire conference, or I will not come. Of course, there are a lot of issues. Health does not permit sometimes. Family problems are there. Problems have actually multiplied now. But leave. Biggest problem is that taking leave from the college or university. People are not taking, I mean, it's very difficult to take leave. But yet, I think somehow we have to think of transforming this this participation to community. The last thing, I must say that please don't take anybody's name, not only me. I mean, Professor Mohanty would agree with me. We all are nimit to a larger project. It's a very big project. It's an intergenerational project. We are just instrumental. Instrumental is not a right translation for nimit. We are not instrument. We are nimit. Nimit has no translation. Badalika was saying we are nimit to a bigger project, and that's a very cosmic project, Giri, that we are probably thinking of, and that's transcendence is involved in that. The involvement of the people without any remuneration is something that people can't even think of today. Everybody who thinks of organizing conference starts with this idea कि कितना पैसा किसको दे सकते हैं. And very interestingly, every time Savita says we should organize some money for volunteers, I said no. As long as there are volunteers, your project will go on. The moment you start giving money, the project will collapse. We can't pay to Sanjana the amount of work she did. How much do you need to pay her? Just can't. Not only doing the work, paying from their own pocket several times, not even telling us that they have paid. So I think this is the beauty of this self-organizing community, which is not dependent on financial thing that much. I'm so happy about it that finally I'm proving to be right that knowledge is a collective project. It's not an individual project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have nothing to add. I only want to know if we had enough activists in the colloquium. Did we? No. Did we have enough activists in the colloquium?
We had a couple of them.
Couple of them.
Yeah.
But I think this is something because they really ask questions differently. And of course, Anita was there. You can say Anita Guruswami. Gurumurti. I mean, so there are lots of people working on people's technology, on finding out other ways. So that's one. Second, on the community formation, I think this is something we have talked about before, but haven't been able to implement. Every time there is a organizing group on a theme, on that theme we should have a research group so that they continue working and because they have worked on this theme. So those who have worked on technology, society, state technology and politics. I'll be very disappointed if state has to be mentioned to be discussed. I think our greatest achievement in political science is that now all disciplines have politics at their center. Questions of power, purpose, freedom, equality, liberation, these questions are at the center of philosophy, sociology, economics, and so on, despite so many efforts to avoid those questions. Now, politics is at the center. Therefore, you don't have to say state in the title to discuss state. But if that is the danger, by all means have that. But your scrutiny should be very clear. Therefore, every thematic seminar should lead to, every colloquium should lead to some follow-up project. A group which, and then, if the perspective had not crystallized before the seminar or in course of the seminar, they will go on trying to crystallize it, producing it. If they didn't have enough activists, have more activists to a smaller group, or you go somewhere to discuss. I think that's very important. But this has been, I totally believe that I should have been here in all the sessions. It was just impossible on my part. My apologies again. But it is absolutely so heartening. There is reason to live and live long. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Don't just go there.
So I remember the very first time that I attended my first creative theory colloquium, which was back in 2020 when I just joined my master's, just a year after that. And I was amazed with the kind of discussions that were taking place. The reason being that in university spaces often become so restrictive that you don't get the time, the energy is not often appreciated, but also the enthusiasm that the participants in the discussion have to contribute to something larger is something that I've missed out in the university system. But each year on 5th and 6th of September, this time 7th as well, I look forward to joining the colloquium. I also believe, I'm not going to thank anyone individually, but as a collective, Creative Theory Group and Association for Creative Theory has allowed me to develop not only a very systematic process of thought, but also taught me how freeing thinking itself can be, and how important it is to develop empathy and kindness, and this whole this feeling of warmth that's always there among all the participants and the organizers as well. And that's something that I rarely see in spaces these days, but I'm glad that it's in this foundation and this association. Now moving on to the colloquium bit. So the creative theory, the 11th creative theory colloquium this time was also, I think, one of the first times that we had an open call for papers, and we invited a lot of students from different universities. We had students joining from Hyderabad, we had students joining from Delhi University, JNU of course, but also many other universities across India. Jindal and many, Shivnadar, Jamia, all of those universities. We also had invited participants who were there, and we are extremely grateful to all the panelists who were there. My special thanks to all the panel coordinators, Mr. Saurabh Todaria, in chronology of the sessions that were organized. Dr. Saurabh Todaria, Savita Singh, Harish Narayan Das, and Shinjini Mukherjee, Madhulika Banerjee, G.N. Trivedi, Shuchi Bharti, and Dhananjay Rai. And to all the associate coordinators, Harshvardhan, Pathan Mujahid, Mansi Mishra, Sambhav Suman, Alisha, R. Pratyuksha, Ayushi Goswami, Shreya Vats, Titsa, Abhimati, Swada, and Naval. And the colloquium booklet team, Jigyasa, Pratyuksha, Tanmoy, Abhimati, Swada, Ayushi, Naval, Harsh, and Sambhav. And the poster team, Mansi, Subhankar, Ayushi, Alisha, Reshma, Vandana, Vanshika, Vishu, Kanika, Harshvardhan, and Siddiqui. And of course, the core coordinators of the colloquium, Savita Singh, Manindra Thakur, Dhananjay Rai, Rityusha Tiwari, Sanjana, why am I thanking myself? I was just in the flow of reading.
Thank you, Sanjana. Thank you, Sanjana.
Sarvesh, Jigyasa, Alok, Rakesh, Shubhankar, and Avichal. Also, I love enjoying, I love and I enjoy organizing colloquiums, but I also miss simply attending the colloquium. So probably from the next time onwards, I'm going to sit back and just absorb everything that's being discussed and debated here. But thank you so much everyone for coming. So officially we now close the colloquium, but as Manindra sir already said, that we will continue the discussions and we will have many more discussions on the theme of technology and society year long. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, and we do have an extended colloquium on 14th and 15th of September where we have two panels, philosophy of technology online and literature and technology. We also have an extended roundtable on the 15th of September. Thank you so much.